Hi, and welcome to Real Life with Jenny. My name is Jenny Senaparatna. Grab your favorite drink and a snack, and we will get started. Today, I have English breakfast tea and some Smarties. You know what? Because some days you just need a Smartie. There we go. Let's get real. So, maybe something you don't know about me is I am not a big collector. It is not something I do a lot of. I don't like piles. I'm not a big having a ton of things. In fact, when I was a kid, my parents took us on our very first vacation. I will never forget it. It was our very first vacation. We went out to South Dakota, I believe it was. And my dad brought us to a souvenir shop. And he's like, okay, everybody needs to collect something. Everywhere we stop, you'll be able to buy something of whatever it is that you choose. And so I remember walking around the store and going, what do I want? My sister ended up saying she wanted to have a bell at every place we stopped. So when we went, to Mount Rushmore, she got a bell. And when we went to the Badlands at some souvenir shop, she got a bell. And I remember walking around, and for two reasons, I chose something that I really wish I would not have. Because I was in between a spoon and a thimble. I know, both extremely practical things, right? A spoon and a thimble. And I remember wanting to choose one of the two of them because, number one, they were small, and I didn't want anything that was like big. And where would I put it? And number two, I wanted the cheapest thing that they had available. So I chose a spoon. And yeah, that's weird, right? So I still have a very large collection of spoons from all of the vacations and all the spots that we went as a family. And I continued that collection for a pretty long time, until I was married. And so I have a box now of spoons from all these different places. But the one thing my mom always got were mugs. Like, she always bought a mug. So my sister got bells. I got spoons because they were cheap and small. And my mom got mugs. I have no idea what my dad did. And my brother, just because he was the youngest, got to do whatever he wanted. So he got to collect whatever he thought would be fun at that time. So he never really got a big collection. But my mom had boxes of mugs underneath her bed. I remember very vividly, I was like, I am never going to have boxes of mugs. It is just not important to me. I don't drink coffee. I don't need any mugs. So when we got married and moved into this house 22 years ago, oh my goodness, that's really long. Anyway, I bought something that held 8 mugs. And I'm like, I'm never filling it beyond 8. And I will just keep those 8 mugs. One of them was a mug from my senior year prom. Now, how weird is that? Anyway, so I had my 8 mugs. Now, you realize I've started to drink tea. And all of a sudden, my mug collection has gotten bigger and bigger. And I'm like, okay, so now my senior class mug has been relegated to somewhere else. And that's no longer, now that's a pencil cup. And, I'm trying to get creative. Like, I don't want to get rid of these mugs because some of them mean things to me. And so now I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. And so this Christmas, I bought myself, or put it on my list, I'm not sure which one it is, but I bought a mug holder for 18 mugs. I really felt very kind of crazy. I was like, boy, look at me. I'm like really hoarding mugs all of a sudden. Now, I have a very separate spot for teacups because I have people that have given me teacups throughout the last 2 years of Real Life with Jenny. And when I'm speaking and they give me a teacup, and I still pray for those people that gave me those teacups. So my teacups are somewhere separate from my mugs. Now you're like, okay, Jenny, why is that important? It is, just wait. So here I am with my 18, I can hold 18 mugs. And we went to a church, and my husband was talking about my mug collection and how I have started using it as a way to pray for people. Now, can I just say that might not be my best option? Maybe it is, because I am absolutely loving the opportunity, because you know what? You never gulp down a cup of tea, right? It is not something that you're like, oh, I need to get this down as quick as possible. It's not coffee. Tea is a relaxation moment. It is a stop your day and sip that cup of tea. Make sure the cream and the sugar are just at the right spot, and then just savor the next however long you can stretch it out till it's too cold and it's now iced tea. And so during that time, I am always praying for whoever is connected with that mug or that teacup. And so my husband happened to mention this at this church. And so the pastor's wife came over, and she was such a sweetheart. I've met her before. She's just one of those people that you just kind of want to take home. She's just a true gem of a human being. And she came over and she was like, can I give you the mug from our church? And I was like, I would love that. And she was like, because I would love for you to pray for me. And I was so humbled. I was like, I've never actually had anybody give me a mug and know that they were going to get prayed for. I don't normally tell people, hey, if you give me a mug, I'll pray for you. Except now here I am. But she brought over the mug, and I was so humbled by the sweetness of the gesture. I came home and I looked at my mugs and I thought, I have got a problem here. I no longer have room on my mug rack. But I cannot get rid of people that I love and I cherish and I pray for. So we're sitting there at dinner, and we're just, I think it was lunch maybe, as a family. And we're sitting there, and I was kind of sharing this with my husband and daughter. And my husband's like, why don't you get or my daughter said, why don't you get a bookshelf or something? And I was like, well, now we're getting a little excessive. Right? Here I am. I've gone from, I don't want to collect anything, to now I'm thinking about getting a bookshelf for my mugs. And my husband was like, well, what about this thing behind me? And there's a little teeny bookshelf. It's not very big. It probably comes up to your hip if you're short like me. So it's not very tall. And it fits a mug perfectly. And so that is going to be my new, and I haven't done it yet because I have to repaint it and I have no idea where I'm going to put it. But it's going to be my new prayer mugs. I'm going to put kind of my travel mugs up for display and then have this other little area for my prayer mugs. So I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I've got this new project. And so I'm out and I'm shopping with my daughter. She's with her teenage friend. They don't want me around. So I'm kind of just browsing in areas that they're not, trying to I see you, but you don't know that I see you because you're independent and cool. But I still kind of want to know where you are. So I'm browsing around, and I found this mug on sale. It was 75% off. I mean, can you pass up a 75% off mug? And it so represented one of my dear friends. And I was like, okay, do I do this? Do I do this? And so I finally just said, you know what? This will be the first time that I have bought a mug specifically for someone. Normally my mugs kind of become they remind me of someone, or I've done something with somebody and, that kind of, I have a mug that says strong, courageous, and beautiful that one of my sweet friends gave me 15 years ago. I know, 15 years ago. And every time I drink out of that mug, I think of her and think of how strong, courageous, and beautiful she thinks I am, and how I need to think of that more myself. Anyway, so I bought this mug for my friend, and I'm like, okay, good. Now I've kind of got some more mugs. I feel like I'm kind of crazy. So the next day I'm out and I see, yes, I know, you've heard this already. I see another mug. And I'm like, Lord, I can't buy another mug. I am already becoming a mugaholic. This is kind of ridiculous. I'm soon going to have them underneath my bed, This is too much. But the mug says me time. And it's got a little flower and a book and a little thing of tea. And it's just kind of a representation of all the things that I love. It's got a little plant on it. And I was like, Lord, I can't buy another mug. And he said to me something that kind of blew me away. He said, I need you to pray for you. And I went, well, then I'm not buying this mug. Like, there's no way. It was at a store called Five Below. So everything's $5 and under. And I'm like, I'm not spending $5 on a mug. Like, that's not, I don't like to spend money. And I'm like, I can't spend $5 on a mug, especially for myself. Like, this is just completely wasteful. You know, all of my mugs have like sentimental value, or somewhere that we've visited, or with a missionary, or with the pastor, or, you know, pastor's wife, or with a sweet friend. Nothing is about me. Like, that's just ridiculous. And I felt very, very strongly I needed to pick up the mug and buy it. So I brought the mug to the front, and I'm like, oh, here we go. Jenny's about to pay $5 for a mug I'm never going to use, although it's a really nice big mug. Anyway, and so I bought it, and it was $3. And I'm like, okay, Lord, I get it. Thank you. And I bring it home, and I put it up, and I hung it up because I have not gotten my little thing done. And I hung it up on my little rack, and I see it, and I'm like, Lord, I don't want to pray for myself. Like, so the other day I was going to get a cup of tea, and I'm like, what mug should I use? What mug should I use? And I was like, oh, I should use my mug, my time mug, me time mug. And I'm like, nope, I don't want to pray for myself. I'm not going to do it. Find a different mug, pray for a missionary that day. Kind of having this ongoing battle for like a week now. How crazy is this? And today, just today, I'm doing something that I don't really love. I'm reading a book that is what I would call boring. It's not super interesting. It's kind of a history book. In fact, it's a history of the Assemblies of God, which maybe just for you went, oh my goodness, that would be really interesting. And maybe it is really interesting. Just not in the place that it's super interesting for me. But I had spent up at that point about 4 hours listening or / reading this book, because I'm reading and listening to the book at the same time. Anyway, and I go up to get a cup of tea because I'm like, I have not had a cup of tea in like 4 days. I need something. I need to pick me up. You know, here we go. And I walk over, and God's like, get your me time mug. And I was like, I really don't want my me time mug, because what does that mean? That means I have to pray for me. Like, ugh, right? So I'm obedient, and I get my tea all ready, and it took me a little bit of time because it's a brand new mug, so you don't know how much sugar it needs. I know, it's like this whole process. How weird is this? Anyway, I'm like, you're like, Jenny, come back to us. I get the sugar just right, the cream just right, and I sit down, and I literally was like, Lord, I don't want this mug. I don't want to pray for me. And he went, Jenny, you need to pray for you. And I'm like, no, you pray for your kids, you pray for your husband, you pray for your pastor, you pray for the missionaries, you pray for friends, you pray for family, you pray for finances, like you pray for everything. I don't pray for me. And God said, you need to pray for you. And I was like, I have nothing. Like, what do I need? I have a roof over my head. I have a wonderful family. I have a great podcast community. Like, what more do I need in my life? Like, Lord, what am I going to pray for? Really? Right? And he said, pray for you. And now I didn't spend a lot of time today. Honestly, I'll be completely vulnerable. I was not really into it. I wasn't like, hey, this is going to be great. I'm going to pray for me. But honestly, it was a moment that I realized once again, I have put myself second, third, fourth, maybe seventh on the list, just in my prayer life. I have not spent time going, Lord, here are my emotions. Here are my things I'm struggling with. I am frustrated. I'm feeling alone. All those things. I'm not bringing them to him because I'm so focused on everybody else. Yes, my mugs and my teacups are amazing and an amazing tool that God uses to bring me to pray and pray for others. But it was a reminder that you also need things to remind yourself to pray for you. and bring things before the Lord, because He has stuff to speak to you about. You are you are uniquely made for Him, and He has stuff He wants to say to you. And I just spent a little bit of time just hearing Him say, "Hey, Jenny, you've got this. It's gonna be okay." And I was like, okay, I've got this. It's gonna be okay. Yes, I'm not really enjoying life right now. Like, it's not like, oh, raindrops and rainbows and gumdrops. That's what it is. Rainbows and gumdrops. That is not my life right now. But God sees me. And so I'm going to encourage you this week. I don't know how you're going to do it, but I have a sneaky suspicion that you are more creative than I am, and that you're probably going to take this challenge better than I did. But I'm going to ask you at least once a day to spend 1 minute praying for yourself. I don't know what that looks like for you, but 1 minute a day just praying for yourself and bringing yourself before the Lord and saying, "Lord, I'm here and I'm lost." Or, "Lord, I'm doing good. How you doing?" Wherever you are. Maybe I'm a little more casual than you're used to. All of a sudden I'm like, that didn't sound super spiritual. Oh well. But 1 minute every day this week, just bringing yourself before the Lord and praying for yourself. Because we're so great at remembering to pray for the things around us and our finances and our jobs and protection over our car rides and protection over our food. And so many things we're great at praying for. Are you good at praying for yourself? Are you good at bringing yourself before the Lord and kind of doing an examination just for 1 minute every day this week and see what He has to say to you? Well, that is all I have for you this week. I am super excited to hear what God does as you speak to Him about yourself, and maybe take a couple minutes and be vulnerable. We'll see. You can find us at Real Life with Jenny on Instagram and on Facebook. You can also find me at christconnection.cc/Jen. All of my information is there. Looking forward to hearing from you and hearing about you spending that 1 minute once a day this week praying for yourself. And let's see what God can do.